Today I'm going to show you Google Sketchup, and it's a web-based program for 3D drawing. So once you click on the link that is in Google Classroom, this is what you're going to see. So what you're going to do is now click on Start Modeling, and this will take you to the this right here where you're going to sign in with Google. So you're going to have your own account, and where you're going to have sort of like a cloud where you're going to be able to save your own drawing. So click on Sign in with Google, and then you're going to use your Google account. And so if you're already signed in, what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and use your Google account, and then it's going to go ahead and get everything started up. It might take a couple of minutes for it to get started up depending on internet. Now this will come up, and this is you can start a tour or you can just start modeling. Since I'm going to show you guys what you need to do, you can just click on Start Modeling, and privacy notice, just click OK, and then before you start, I agree to terms of service, just click in the box I agree, OK. And this is what you're going to see when you first come into Google SketchUp. And as you see, we've got 3 axes here. Okay, now we're 3D drawing. And so just real quick, I want to tell you a little bit about the axes. This green axis I like to call the y-axis. The red axis here I like to call the x-axis. And the blue axis I like to call the z-axis. So I might refer to this area over here as the XY plane. So Y, X, so we'll be drawing over here a little bit. Here you have a person here at the origin. This kind of gives you a reference to dimensions. Now that we're going to be drawing a house, it's important to understand measurements and dimensions, because now we're going to be drawing things with actual dimensions. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on up here. If you click, this is Open Model Preferences, so click here, and this is going to kind of take you to sort of like your little cloud where you keep things. So this is your SketchUp folder here with your project, so click on this. And what we're going to do is, real quickly, we're going to add a folder. So click on Add Folder, and just call this, we'll just call this Technology Class, because we're going to have different classes doing different things. So we'll just call this Technology Class. That way you can have different folders. You might have a folder for just things that you want to work on that don't have to do with Tech Ed. So just add folder, name it Technology Class, and then to go back, we're going to click Return right here, Return. Okay, now this is where we click to set the model name. So let's go ahead and name the file. So let's click here where it says Untitled. Now we do want to put this in the Technology Class folder. So let's click on that, or double click on it, and it says this folder is empty, which is fine. So name down here where it says Untitled. This is where we're going to name this House 1. House 1. Save here. And then now we can see we've named it House 1, and it's saved. And as we start working, we'll come up here and we will click where it says, it'll say Save. This right here, File Operations, this is where we can make a new file, we can open a file, we can save it as a different name, and then download. That's where we're going to download later on onto your computer so that I can grade it. So we'll download it to the D drive. So just real quick, I'm going to show you the tools that we will be using. You can play around with these a little bit later on your own just to kind of see what they do. But this is the Select tool. Okay, so you can select different items. You'll know that they're selected because they're blue. Okay, so I've selected the gentleman. Now he's not selected. He's selected. Now he's not selected. The eraser tool comes in pretty handy. So if you draw something and you don't want it, then you can click on it. So even with this icon here, this gentleman, I can actually erase him. So I can just click on him with the eraser and he's gone. Now if I didn't want to do that, I can actually come down here to undo and I can undo that. So this is actually coming in handy. You have an undo and a redo. Undo, redo. They come in handy when you do stuff that you don't mean to do. Paint, we'll get into that a little bit later. Line tool, okay, if you click on it, the ones with arrows have different tools associated. This is straight line tool. This is just freehand. Down here's rectangle. We'll be using just the regular rectangle tool. We won't be using any of these, just the regular rectangle. This right here is push-pull tool. We'll be using that one. Here we will be using the move tool. That we're going to move things a little bit. Next is tape measure. The tape measure tool, we're going to use that to measure, just to make sure that our dimensions are correct. And then orbit tool, okay, orbit, pan, zooming. Real quick, there is when you use the orbit tool, it orbits you around the axes, okay. Pan, what the pan tool does is takes you left and right, up and down, okay. Now, if you have, I don't know if you maybe played around at the very beginning, but if you'll notice, the roller on your mouse actually does the zooming, and that's a little bit easier. That's a little shortcut. Also, I'll show you another shortcut. If you push down on the roller on the mouse, so if you push down and hold it, that gives you your orbit. And I'll be using that a lot instead of coming over here and then clicking and selecting orbit. So just pushing down, okay, on the roller on the mouse gives you an orbit tool. So sometimes if you select pan and then using the roller on the mouse back and forth and then clicking down on the roller kind of gives you all these great tools there at the same time. So I'm going to line this gentleman up, sort of. I'm going to zoom out some. I'm going to kind of put him down here. I'm going to orbit a little bit. I want this big area here, and I want him down here in the lower left-hand corner, and I want you to do the same. I want your screen to look exactly like mine, right here, because we're going to draw a rectangle. And we're going to come over here, and we're going to select rectangle. And we're going to start right here at this corner, and we're going to left click and we're going to draw a rectangle. Now I want you to notice the dimensions box. Watch the dimensions box as I draw a rectangle, and then notice how when I go this way, that's the first dimension in the box. Watch how that gets bigger. If I go this way, that's the second dimension in the box, okay? So the first dimension is basically the X dimension, and the second dimension is the Y dimension. So the X dimension I want close to 50. So there we go. That's 50. Second dimension, let's go up along the Y. I want that one somewhere around 30. So, that's close. So about 54, 31. I'm going to unclick my mouse. If you come down here, 54, 31, that's good enough. So somewhere between about 50, 30, right here. Now, if you lose this, so let's say you click somewhere and you accidentally draw a rectangle. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Come down here, undo. And then you've got different dimensions, or let's say you clicked somewhere and maybe you clicked the select tool and you lost your measurements. Then guess what? You can use this tool, the tape measure. Click on the tape measure and then go to the endpoint, hold left click, go to the other endpoint, and then there's your dimension right there, 54. Okay, you can do the same thing to the other side. I'm orbiting. Okay, endpoint, endpoint, there's your dimension. Make sure you check these. Now, we need some height to the house, so this is where we're going to use push-pull. Click on push-pull. All right, we're going to go to this surface, and we're going to left-click and go straight up. Now, this is a 2-story house, so we're going to go up about 30 feet. Watch your distance box. 24, let's see here, 29,